Hello Infiniteers, happy Friday, and welcome back for our next episode of Toy Box Tutorials. Today we are going to take a look at the Bank Vault toy. This is a set piece that you can unlock in the Toy Box Takeover expansion game for Disney Infinity 3.0. And the way you unlock that is by collecting all 3 coins in the Old West level. And after it's unlocked, you find it in the set pieces drawer in the editor. And I'm going to place one right here. Now this is an interesting toy because it is more than just a set piece. It is interactive, and it provides a fun little safecracker mini game that you can use in your toy boxes. So we're going to come over here, and you'll see there's a logic menu for it, so we'll open it up. And we have some properties. We have 3 tumblers, and these range from 1 to 9. And so you can set your combination that you want for your bank vault. And then you can specify the loot. And this can be a collectible, or funny enough, if you go all the way to the bottom, you can have it be Scrooge McDuck. So he gets trapped in his vault, I guess, and you have to rescue him. So those are your options. And not all of the collectibles are in this list, by the way. There are some that are not in here, like the armored collectibles that you have to break. But I'll set this to be the briefcase collectible. And I'm going to set my combination. By default, it's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to set mine to 2, 1, 4. Okay. There's also a logic connection, a trigger signal that this will broadcast, and the only one that it has is Vault Opened. And this is broadcast when the player correctly enters the combination and the vault is opened, as you might expect. And I do have one other thing. I have a button over here. I forgot to set one up over by the bank vault, but if we do a new logic connection when pressed, we come over to the bank vault, you'll notice it won't let me select it. So there are no behaviors for the bank vault. Let me cancel out of that. And what that means is there's no way to reset this toy after you use it. So once you open the bank vault, you can't reset it. You have to delete it and recreate it. So what you want to do is set your properties, hook up your logic, and then save your toy box before you test it out. And then reload your toy box after you test it. Now when you open it up, you do that by stepping on these little things, if you remember from Toy Box Takeover. And then the vault opens, and the item in the vault will appear on top of the door. And you can connect up to the Vault Opened signal, as I mentioned. You can also use the collectible tracker if you're using any of the collectibles except Scrooge McDuck. And if I come into the properties here, I can set the collectible type to be that same briefcase collectible. I have to scroll down a little bit to get to that. There we go. And I can do a new logic connection on this when the collectible is collected by any, and I'll hook it up to my sound effect generator that I dropped here. I'll just have that play the fanfare. So I can use the bank vault this way without hooking any logic up to the vault itself. But again, if I want to, I can do that with the Vault Opened signal. Alright, so now we come over here, and when you step on these, the little tumbler up there changes. And I'll put my combination in, the vault opens, and there's the collectible. And when I pick it up, there we go. So that's pretty straightforward. Now one of the questions that comes up when you want to use this toy is this. How do I tell the player what the combination is when we no longer have a functioning text creator? And I think this is one of the main reasons why no one uses this toy much anymore. But there are ways to get that information to the player. You just have to be creative about it. And so let me give you some ideas about how you might do that, because this is a really fun toy, and we do want to use it if we can. So probably the easiest idea is to create a tall place in your toy box, like this nearby mesa, and then arrange some scenery and have the player visit this location. And when they look down, those cactuses are arranged in the number for the combination. So that's a real easy way to give them that. And you can use a radar marker or something of interest to bring the player up here, and hopefully they'll look down there and see that. So that's one way to give them the combination without using a text creator. Another option is to use a counter. And so over here we have a counter, and I've placed a button. You can have this set up so when you approach a townsperson with a dynamic trigger, or you collect a collectible, that it'll invoke the counter. And so on the counter, what we can do is we can set the reset count to be one of the numbers in our combination. I'll set this one to be 4. And leave the rest of the properties set the way they are. And then just for demo purposes, I'll use this button. Excuse me. And you want to have it reset the counter. So if you're going to approach a townsperson, you'll have the dynamic trigger reset the counter. If you want to pick up a collectible, like maybe a scroll or something, and presumably the combination, the number is on the scroll, you can have picking up the scroll invoke this to reset it. And what you'll see when you do that, when we push the button, notice the top of the screen, there's the number. Now it only shows up for about 2 seconds. If you push this again, it won't show up again because the counter hasn't changed. The counter is only displayed when the number actually changes. So it's easy for the player to miss that. But that is a way to get a number to the player. Now a little bit more complicated way, perhaps a little more fun, is we can use the text displayer to indicate something that the player should count. And I've dropped a little collectible over here. It's the envelope. And I put a collection pen with a couple of locators in it. And I connected these friend generators up to each of the locators. And so what I'm going to do, we're going to hook up this dynamic trigger to one of these locators as well. And when the player approaches this area, we're going to spawn a couple of critters inside of this this collection pen. We're going to use the dynamic trigger to set up a radius around that locator. And for the purposes of this demo, I'll set it to 60. And the target needs to be the connected locator. Okay. And we're going to use this text displayer to tell the player what's in the envelope that's on top of the building there. I'm going to set the text duration to 4, text style to banner, so the player can't miss it. And again, you could do this with a townsperson, approaching a townsperson like you would a mission giver. You can do it for picking up a collectible or whatever. But we'll do a new logic connection. When this is broken or collected, come over to our text displayer. And there's several things you could do under here. If you go down to the nouns category, you can use rabbits. And this is what I'm going to use. So when they pick this up, the text displayer will say rabbit. And if they look around, they're going to see some rabbits down in that collection pen. But you could also use telephone poles. And if you look at my Zootopia series, I show you how you can get a telephone pole in your toy box. You could use smoke and have a certain number of smoke plumes. You could use boulder and place down some boulders in the area here from the Gameplay Toys drawer. You could use chimney, have them count the number of chimneys. You could use tea set and put down some teapot collectibles, parking meters, lifeboats. You could use the Pirates of the Caribbean boats that are in the, I think it's building sets group 4. And so there's a number of things you could do in here that you could point them to in your environment to count. And that number that they count would give them the combination for the safe. Another one might be under the, let's see, I think it's the confused category. You could have them say, what was that? And then use a counter or a series of time delayers to play a sound effect over and over again for a certain number of times, like maybe a door knock or a chime or something like that. For this example, I'm going to use the rabbit, as I said. I'll just show you how you might make this work. So when they pick up the collectible, this will say rabbit. Now when they approach the farm, before they even get to that, we're going to use this to spawn the rabbits. So on the dynamic trigger, a new logic connection, when entered by player, any. We'll come over to our friend generator. We're going to go down to critters. And the rabbit, I think, is about halfway down, as I recall. There it is, rabbit. And we'll do the same thing with the other one. New logic connection on the dynamic trigger when entered by player any. Go down to critters and spawn the rabbit. And I'm using 2 friend generators here because this particular little area will give them the number 2 in the combination. So rabbit. Alright, so when I come out of Spark mode and I enter this area around this locator, this will put 2 rabbits inside of that. And when they leave this area, it's always good to clean up your resources. So a new logic connection when exited by player any. We'll come over to each of these and remove the critters. Because if they're not over here, they don't need these, and they're just wasting memory in the toy box. And as you know, if you've been building for any length of time, memory is a premium. Everything takes up memory, and there's only so much memory. So you don't want to fill your toy box up with things that the player's not going to see. Alright, so we'll come out of the editor. That puts the critters there in that drawer. Then we'll come up here. When we pick up the envelope, it says rabbit. And we look around, and we have 2 rabbits. So that's how we can get that digit in our combination. And as I said, you can use that text displayer to specify any number of objects there that I pointed out that you can count in your environment, or play a sound effect that you can do. And so those are the different ways that you can get the combination to the player. So you may not have a text creator, but it's not impossible. There's always a way to do it. But that's how the bank vault works, and hopefully now that you have some ideas for how to use it and how to give the combination to the player, you'll be able to have some fun with it. Thank you for watching. Before you go, leave a comment and let me know what you think of my tutorial for the bank vault. Hopefully it was helpful for you. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more tutorials like this. Have a great weekend.